Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal snubbed? Or are the Suns just being outright disrespected? Plus, Yusuf Nurkic returns. What is that going to do for the Suns? What do we need to see from him? Let's break it all down next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up? Welcome into Locked On Phoenix Suns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Benjamin Garcia, executive producer over at Fox Sports 910 from 6 to 10 a.m. Monday through Friday. Thanks for making Locked On Podcast your first listen on this beautiful Thursday. Before we dive into everything, don't forget to click, follow, subscribe, become an everydayer, as Brendan always likes to say, and get Locked On Phoenix Suns every single day. But first, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. Start the season with a big return at FanDuel by placing $5 bet to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Joining me today from, I believe, downtown Phoenix, the
heart of downtown.
push Saul Bookman right off the edge. The new GM of PHNX Sports and also a contributor on PHNX Suns, Espo. How are you doing, man?
I am good. Do you have a rule that the guy next to you has to be a nerdy white guy with glasses? Is that part of the Locked On Suns requirements here?
That was always the requirement. The problem was when they added me is the requirement. They just needed someone a little bit cooler and a little bit sleeker. Gotcha. So they failed to do that as well, but I got through the interview process to make it happen. Well, hey, Espo, we saw there's been a lot of ruckus, a lot of talk about the Phoenix Suns, and mostly this ESPN Top 100 list. If there's anything I love more than anything in this world, it is lists, because I can give a harsh opinion. I can stand on it. So let's talk about it. Devin Booker outside of the top 10. We'll get to him in just a minute. The one that showed up yesterday, and the reason why I want to wait till today is because we knew that this full list would come out. Bradley Beal, 70th on this list. Behind or just in front of guys like Klay Thompson, behind guys that feels like he should be ahead of. Where are you at? Is Bradley Beal being wildly, just wildly undervalued this upcoming season?
Well, I think with the premise of the list, if you read what the parameters that they gave these 150 experts to look at, was projecting into this season, 24-25, and just that. With that in mind, I think they have underrated him, because the assumption, rightfully or wrong, I think is that he'll be healthier than last year. And if Bradley Beal's healthy and returning to more of a natural position, whether it's this shooting guard or small forward, however they're going to designate it, it's more natural to him than point guard was. I think you can expect a better season from him than last year. I mean, but bias is always going to be there, right? You can't do this in a vacuum. You can't ignore what happened. And we all know the best ability is availability. And he didn't have that last year, and the previous year in Washington, he struggled with it as well. So when you look at it through that lens, and, was 18, 5-5 roughly that you got out of him good? Yeah. But also he missed all those games, and that's such a huge key to it. So I'm actually not overly upset with him where he ranked, in because he's got to prove it this year. If I were personally just projecting what he's going to do this year, I think he's much better than the 70th player in the league. But I also spent 82 games. Well, I spent 82 games watching the Suns, and all of them that Beal participated in. And I saw something a little different than guys that just checked in from time to time probably saw.
It's really strange, the Bradley Beal disrespect. I don't like to use that word. I feel like something that fans use to try to just garner interest in the player, but it does feel a little disrespectful for a guy that isn't washed or isn't that far removed from very impressive seasons, including last year, where he was efficient. He just couldn't stay on the court.
Yeah, I mean, come on, though. These lists aren't about nuance. They aren't about anything beyond, well, he only scored 18 last year in Phoenix. He was averaging high 20s in Washington. Obviously, something's up. Yeah, he's playing with two high volume scorers. I don't think people take that kind of stuff into consideration either. I'm on the Beal train. I believe in the Beal-assance this year. I think he's going to have a heck of a year, but it drives me nuts because these lists are never nuanced. They're in fact, they're created so guys like you and I go on a tangent like this about them.
So what frustrates me is this list. It doesn't make a ton of sense with the way that they kind of gauge things. It feels like Bradley Beal fell behind the list of guys that are young and up and coming, but not everyone really feels like, okay, they're definitely going to be the next thing, but let's put them ahead of Bradley Beal so it looks like we give them more respect. But then just ahead of a guy in Klay Thompson who, I'm going to be honest with you, Espo, and I had this debate with Jody this morning, I would much rather Bradley Beal over Klay Thompson. And that sparked a lot of outrage on social media. Klay Thompson's got 4 rings. Oh, he's better at Bradley Beal. I'm not so sure outside of 3-point shooting what Klay Thompson is better than Bradley Beal. He's not a better defender anymore. He's not. He's cooked. He doesn't move laterally the same. Bradley Beal is a willing defender, and this idea that he's just a horrible defender, I don't understand it. It's lazy takes on social media. Why do you think there is this notion that Bradley Beal's washed or he's older than people believe he is? Again, his statistics were very good last year, just down literally just points and assists or whatever it is from years ago. Because you had mentioned he's playing with high volume scores. Where does that come from?
Well, first off, I actually think he might be a better 3-point shooter than Klay at this point too. And you can't convince me that if numbers were the same salary wise, that Mavs wouldn't want to have Bradley Beal over a Klay Thompson. I just you can't convince me, and anybody that says that with a straight face, I'm going to call a liar. Like, I just don't think that that's the case here. But again, I think there was so much hype around the Suns team where, they're going to be number one in the West. They're the favorite in the West. They're a championship. It's a big contender. It's a big 3. All these things that they put up these guys up on a pedestal and set them up thinking they were going to have all this success. And when they win 49 games, which again isn't horrible in the larger picture of the West when you consider it, I think that soured everybody on each guy on this roster and the whole thing. I mean, we'll talk about Devin Booker in a little while in this list. Like, that to me is a big part of this, is just the perceived failure from last year. You add that with the injuries, and if you're just looking at counting stats compared to what he did in Washington with no context, yeah, you can make that argument. It's not a good one, but you certainly can make it.
Yeah, let me ask you this then, because Bradley Beal, you believe in his renaissance to come this year, that he's going to step up, be everything that we wanted him to be last year and more, but of course with lesser statistics. Bradley Beal has done everything, to his credit, that the Suns have wanted him to do. Mm-hmm. I've kind of led this charge, but I'm calling away the troops for now. And Gerald has mentioned this on his articles, one of your colleagues, that Bradley Beal, if it comes to it, let's just say the Suns start off slower than we think. Budenholzer can't figure it out or whatever. Do you think Bradley Beal, I wasn't going to ask this, but I want to now, will ever consider being a bench player? And not do you want him to, not is it insane, because I just simply don't think it is. I believe that if this doesn't work out and Ryan Dunn does, there is a version of Bradley Beal that can be cooking with Washington Wizards Bradley Beal. It allows them to get bigger, allows them to defend a little bit better, and it allows him to alleviate that pressure to just be the guy off the bench. Do you think he'd be willing to do that? Just plain and simple, even if you don't want it to happen.
I mean, if they need him to, if it is what is the obvious best thing for the team, I think Bradley Beal operates in a way that's what he looks at, is what's in the best interest of the team. And I think we saw that directly last year with him. But I think that has to be something catastrophic. Grayson Allen is out for the long term. And Ryan Dunn has proven that he's, he basically keeps up what he's doing in preseason and can shoot the three effectively and is a lockdown defender, maybe, but I don't see a world where it's going to make sense.
Okay.
I think Bradley Beal playing with Tyus Jones and Devin Booker and KD is the path to success here, because it brings that. We heard the word gravity last year. We didn't see it a lot, but we heard the word a lot. And I think this year, when you add a Tyus Jones and a Monte Morris into the mix, it actually works. You can't step away from a Devin Booker, a Kevin Durant, a Bradley Beal at any point defensively. So then you're one-on-one with Tyus Jones. If you try to double him, you're either leaving your center wide open or you're leaving one of the other guys wide open when Tyus gets in to the lane. Or if you leave Tyus open from three, he shoots 41% in contested, 46 uncontested on those shots. So this becomes a true pick your poison like you thought last year. And as much as I've loved what Ryan Dunn has done, I don't think moving him into the starting lineup gives you that same kind of thing. Now, minutes and who they play with after the starting, yeah, you could shift that around. Could Bradley Beal play more with the bench unit and Ryan Dunn play more with the starters at time? Maybe, but I don't see a path here where it necessarily makes sense. There was a time over the summer when I thought it might make sense, but the more you look at it and the more I watch what this offense that Mike Budenholzer has crafted and what Tyus Jones can do, I just don't see the path that makes a lot of sense.
And just so everyone knows, before the YouTube comment section comes after me, I'm calling off the docs. I want to allow Budenholzer to do what he does, and I'm open-minded. I'm just ready for a plan B, plan C, plan D, because this is where it is. Bradley Beal was not the only person disrespected on this list to at least many people. So was Devin Booker. Where did he land? Let's talk about it next. First, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place bets. You can get started with $200 guaranteed in bonus bets when you place a $5 bet. You look at the lines for the NFL slate coming up in week 7, the Cardinals and the Chargers. Cardinals down 2.5. The Chargers favored 2.5. I would likely take the Chargers to cover in that game. They do a lot of things well that the Cardinals struggle with. So what are you waiting for? Get a part of the action. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first bet, when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com to view their ads. Check out the app. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, Espo, let's keep the show rolling. You're filling in just amazingly for Brendan, by the way. You're much more better looking, more well-spoken. You know that guy.
Do not rip on my guy, Brendan Clean. All right. This will forever, at least recently been his program. So I will not besmirch the good name of Mr. Clean.
Brendan, he's still learning to go after me a little bit. I think he thinks I'm more sensitive than I really am. Right now, he's in New York living it up. And a guy that is probably not living it up right now, or at least that's what many people think. Devin Booker came in at number 15 on this list. Before I kind of throw it to you, because we've talked Bradley Beal, we've talked Devin Booker, I am of the belief that this team, as well as everyone else thought, was so propped up. Everyone was into them. I thought they were going to win the championship because I was just fanboy brain. That's clearly on me. Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, all kind of seen as a tick knockdown. That happens when you get swept in the first round. I believe this is I'm stoked when I saw these. Bradley Beal at 70, Devin Booker at 15. I wish Booker was 30. I want every amount of disrespect that this team can get. I want every piece of bulletin board material. I want every piece of Booker isn't good in the playoffs and Bradley Beal's injury prone. That is what I believe is going to elevate this team to another tier. Kevin Durant, legacy's on the table, or at least to some. Didn't really win without Steph Curry there. A lot of people think that. Maybe not me, but a lot of people. Devin Booker, just so good. But in the playoffs, what does he do? Bradley Beal as well. 30 points a game one time, Washington Wizards, empty calories. Is A, Devin Booker too low? And B, is this not the exact perfect place for the Suns to be ready to prove everyone wrong?
So I'll take B first here. I think that whole narrative is for guys like you and I. It's for talking heads. It's for the fans. Yeah, sure. Does Devin Booker get fired up sometimes because of trash talk on the court? Yeah. If one of the guys who's going to step on a court with said something like that, I think that motivates him in a way. But the media, I don't think so. And honestly, Kevin Durant's going to be Kevin Durant. I think he goes out there and he performs at a high level regardless of the noise. And, Bradley Beal seems like that same kind of mindset. What's going to change this year is the fact that you got a coach that actually knows how to drive the high octane machine that you put together, rather than one that was more used to riding the brakes like an old man, since he is a defensive minded coach. So I think that first and foremost is what's going to change it, and not the narrative. When it comes to Devin Booker being 15th on a list that's predicated on individual ranking, not team, we're not ranking the Phoenix Suns in the top 30 of the NBA. We're ranking Devin Booker, the individual. This 15th ranking is a complete and utter insult. And I think it's ridiculous that Anthony Edwards is going to be in the top 10 of this list, and Devin Booker sits at 15, 4 slots lower than he was last year. Devin Booker last year had the 6th best points per game, the 11th best assists per game, and the 11th best efficiency offensive or overall, right? When you look at Anthony Edwards, he was nowhere near that same production. He was 25th in assists and 36th in efficiency, and he was behind Devin Booker in points per game. All right? And he's never led a team by himself. Karl Anthony Towns was the face of that team for most of Ant's time there. Now, did it shift halfway through last year? Probably, but he hasn't done it without that other guy next to him. And I'm sorry, Julius Randle ain't that guy, nor is Rudy Gobert. The fact that Anthony Edwards, the guy that was behind Devin Booker in the Team USA rotation and played more of a bit part on that gold medal team where Devin Booker was the unsung MVP, the fact that he is going to be ranked in the top 10 and Devin Booker slid back four spots is utterly ridiculous. And I'm sorry, but the 150 people that voted in this ESPN circus show are completely and utterly wrong on this fact.
Well, listen, the circus can still be fun. It doesn't mean that they're not a bunch of talented people. It just means that there's a lot of things. Why do you believe, for dummies like me who come out here and say, listen, I just think Anthony Edwards does kind of have the edge. This is the guy who has the ability to shut down guys defensively. I'm not here to knock on Devin Booker. I think it's incredibly close, and I don't think anyone is being ridiculous. I think there's a great argument for it. But it was kind of like the Luka Doncic argument a couple of years ago. They played in the playoffs, and Anthony Edwards was awesome. Devin Booker was okay, and the team swept the Suns. Now, there's all the other things to it. I get it. I'm always worried about production in the playoffs. I'm always worried about that aspect. Booker didn't really show up until that elimination game. It's not an indictment on Booker. That team had a lot of holes. But why do you think there is so much love for Anthony Edwards coming from dummies like me?
I say this with all due respect, but there's certain people that love a guy that'll say something stupid in the locker room, will chop his crotch when he's leading in a playoff series, and will have a highlight dunk from time to time. And Devin Booker won't have those highlight dunks, is reserved and rarely says anything of note in post-game press conferences or interviews. Anthony Edwards is entertainment. right? It's not calories. It's not education. It's not these other things. It's entertainment, right? And I get it. Entertainment is a big part of it. But, it's the same reason John Morant was getting so much more praise than Devin Booker at one point. But that does not make Anthony Edwards a better player. And you want to bring up playoffs. Devin Booker the year before was setting records in terms of his efficiency in scoring. When he went to the finals, he set records in the finals and in that whole path to the NBA finals. This isn't a guy that has not shown that he can do it in the playoffs. He struggled in some games, in part due to injury. But this whole narrative that, he can't do it in the playoffs is cherry picking a narrative that you just want to be true. All right. And that's not you. That's just the whole.
No. That is me. Thing. That is me. I'm okay. I'll wear it. Wear it. And I'm willing to be wrong on it. That's where it is. My mind is opened. I want to have it fixed. And part of this, maybe I want this team to be as disrespected as possible, brain. I'm more than willing to do that, and I'm more than willing to wear that. And I'm more than willing at the end of the year, Devin Booker surpasses him, and you come on here and dunk on me yourself. I love all of that.
Look,
I get it.
Let me make one thing clear. Let me make one thing clear.
Let me hear.
I am not trying to disrespect Anthony Edwards. I actually think it's pretty close. I just think Devin Booker, his track record and what he did last year should put him ahead of him, not at the minimum on this list, 4 slots behind him, 5 slots behind him, and probably maybe 6. It wouldn't shock me if they put Anthony Edwards at 9 on this list. And that's my problem, because it's probably closer to splitting hairs than anything between these two guys. If you take the defense into account for Anthony Edwards and where Devin kind of backslid a little bit in that last year. My problem is the amount of space that they put in this list is what really bothers me for it.
Well, listen, for everyone listening, Espo is calling Devin Booker the next Michael Jordan, and Anthony Edwards is still just a high school kid trying to figure it out, not even worthy to tie the shoes of Devin Booker. Well, with all that being said, we have some more news we need to get to. Jusuf Nurkic, according to Chris Haynes, who is always reliable, well, at least sometimes, that Jusuf Nurkic will be back in the lineup against the Los Angeles Lakers. What do we need to see? What do we need to hope Jusuf Nurkic becomes this year? Let's talk about it. First, today's episode is brought to you by Hims. Guys, your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. You don't have time to go to a doctor's office to get treated for ED. Through Hims, you can get a personalized ED treatment without stepping outside your door. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. So what are you waiting for? Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. hims.com/lockedon. The product mentioned are chewable compound products which are not approved or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions required. An online consultation with a healthcare provider to determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details. An important safety options. Subscription required. Prices vary based on product and subscription plan. hims.com/lockedon. All right, Espo. In the words of the great Brendan Clean, let's close out the show. Jusuf Nurkic, according to Brendan Clean, according to Chris Haynes, and there's Budenholzer's maybe saying we'll pump the brakes on it, but Jusuf Nurkic, let's just say he does play in this final preseason game against the dreaded Los Angeles Lakers. What do you need to see from Nurk? What is it that you're hoping to? Are you? I guess I should say, are you buying into this idea that we got Brook Lopez 2.0, or is it pump the brakes? Let's see what we can get from the guy.
Well, first off, I didn't know the B in Crispy Haynes stood for Brendan Clean, so good to know. Look, I joke that could Nurk be Broke Lopez, where we get decent 3-point shooting, but not a full Brook? Yeah, maybe. I mean, he did shoot almost 36% in a season up in Portland. And if you get close to that, 35, 36%, then it changes the dynamic in this offense in a way that would be extremely beneficial. Does it happen? I'm not sure. I don't have a lot of confidence after what I saw from Nurk last year, but what I need for him in this offense is to continue to be a reliable screen setter, which he's one of the best in the league, continue to be a good passer, and finish slightly better at the rim than he did last year, because he's going to get better looks, right? Him and Tyus Jones operating in a two-man game, in a pick and roll, or him in the dunker spot while Tyus draws defense, and you've got the other guys spread out, should be able to more effectively contribute. I don't need to see him back down, drop that shoulder, and lose the ball like he did last year, nor should they rely on that in any way, shape, or form. I think this offense is going to be different enough to focus on his strengths and not his weaknesses. Now, what do I need to see in game one of the preseason? Don't re-hurt the middle finger. And that's what I need to see in the preseason. But overall, I need to see him take care of the ball better, pass it the way he did, set those picks, and hit a better, slightly better from 3-point range to keep the defenses honest.
Yeah, the viewers know where I'm at with Jusuf Nurkic. You are looking at, I have mentioned before that I've kind of led the charge of the Bradley Beal to the bench thing, but we're halting that charge. Everyone stand down for now. I'm also the president of the Ryan Dunn fan club. I'm also the defender of the Jusuf Nurkic nonsense that we see on social media, which, listen, social media brain is a whole nother thing. Nurkic was so important to this team last year. Fans didn't like him. And my hypothesis is they still have DeAndre Ayton brain. They still feel a little scorn from DeAndre Ayton, because when DeAndre Ayton wasn't dunking the ball, it was like, dude, we're paying you a max contract to dunk that ball. And I was there and I understood it and I got it. Nurkic makes $19 million. Is he a little overpaid? Yes. Does he drive me a little insane around the basket? Yeah. He's a really smart basketball player. He's a tremendous passer. And he's a leader, and he's always backed these guys up. Why is he seen as expendable? Where is this idea coming from that, well, listen, Ryan Dunn worked out, so now all we got to do is figure out how to package that 2020 50 pick and Jusuf Nurkic to go get, I don't know, someone else. Where is this Nurkic nonsense coming from? That's what I call it, Nurkic nonsense.
Well, people are obsessed with the next best thing. They want to go get something new. So that's part of it. I think there is very much, echoes of DeAndre Ayton. And if you look at the complete history of the Suns, there's rarely, if ever, been a center that anybody's happy with here. So some of it could be that. It's also the things that Jusuf Nurkic does, I'm going to go back to it, aren't sexy. Nobody sits there and goes, hey, I want a top 10 picks of the season from a guy. I mean, this ain't the NFL. Picks ain't sexy in the NBA. It's a different thing. Like rebounding. Nobody's like, hey, I went back and watched all 31 of Nurk's rebounds when he set that record. One of my favorite highlight tapes I've ever seen. Like those things, those things aren't what get people excited. So part of it is that. I mean, and look, yeah, could he finish better at the rim? Of course. Would I liked him to have not turned over the ball as much as he did? Yeah, but I would have liked the entire team not to have turned over the ball as much as they did last year. It was a massive Achilles heel in general, and I think part of that was because they had no real semblance of an offensive system. So I think it's unfair. I'm right there with you on the Nurk side of things. For what you're paying, the production you're getting, the little things that he can do that are so beneficial with the kind of guys you have around him, I think he's the right center. Now, what you did was you backstopped him with a guy in Oso Ighodaro that does things differently than him. That's a little bit better at ball handling. That's smaller, that's speedier. So you have a change of pace if you run into a matchup that doesn't work for Jusuf Nurkic, where last year you didn't have that. Now you have an option on that front. And that's what you have to do at the center position is be prepared for anything that another team throws at you. And Nurk isn't that everything for every matchup fit. And that's where I think it hurt him last year, because he had to stay in certain matchups where it wasn't beneficial for the team or him. And they didn't have a guy to turn to. They have that this year. I think that's going to benefit Nurk a lot too.
Let's kind of shift it over really quickly before we close things out. I was the one that kind of pushed back on the Suns championship contention until Tyus Jones showed up, until Ryan Dunn showed me what I thought he could be when I thought it back in May. Where do you think the Suns, I don't want to make you give out your complete predictions of everything, where they're going to land. You got your own show for that. I don't want to make you have to say all that stuff here unless you're comfortable with doing so. Where do you think the Suns are going to, where do you think the Suns should be in that tier? Are they a top 3 team in the West? I mean, I know things are just going to have, the playoffs are weird, and you kind of got to get a little lucky to win a championship. The Suns got a little lucky making it to the finals. The Celtics got lucky not having to face Jokic. It's just kind of how it is. But ultimately, what tier do you see this team in? As Ryan Dunn changed it? Has Tyus Jones changed it? Where are you at?
My guy, I've been sharing this prediction for, I think it was since back in June, or actually back in July. I'm going to give it to you straight here. 55 to 60 wins. You look at what Mike Budenholzer does consistently in the regular season. That's where his teams wind up. It's going to happen again this year. I think they'll be, top 3 in the West, depending on how a couple things shake out. And then this team has the horses and has the ability now to win in the playoffs. Will they? They got to prove it. They got to go out and do it. But I think they very much are a serious contender in the West, and then all bets are off when you get to a finals. I think this team has enough top talent on the roster. As long as injuries don't become an issue, they're much deeper than they were last year. I mean, you look at it, and I don't think it's crazy to say they're 8 or 9 deep, where last year you were diving into a very shallow pool and you were relying heavily on Eric jump past Gordon to be a big part of that. This isn't the same bench. And some people are making the mistake of assuming you're running back a similar bench because you're running back a similar starting lineup. And, believe that at your own peril. This team is much better than they were last year on multiple fronts. And I think they're a serious Western Conference finals contender. And I think a serious finals contender.
Let me ask you this. This will be my final question. We talked Devin Booker. We talked all these things. Here's the thing that most interests me. Who do you think has to be the best player on this team for the Suns to win the championship? Is it Devin Booker? Can he do it? Because history says, outside of Steph Curry, it's 6'8" and up guys who can defend, play both sides really well. Or is it Kevin Durant? Where are you at on that? Who has to be the best player?
Look, if Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are 1A, 1B in any order, and they play at the level that they did last year, if Devin plays even slightly better, the sky's the limit, because they got better talent around them. They've got a system that makes sense for them. Like, Devin Booker has proven he can be the best team on a Western Conference Finals team. He did it in 2021. And anybody that tries to tell you Chris Paul was that guy, it did not watch. Devin Booker was the best player on that team. So could he do it again this year? Yeah, he definitely could do it again. But if it's him or Kevin Durant, and it's 1A, 1B again, where they both average 27 points, one of them averages a high volume in assists, the other one slightly more in rebounding, you're in a great spot, because the rest of the guys on your team are better. And I think they're going to be able to get there in an easier manner because they got Tyus Jones setting them up. So I don't think it matters who's 1A, 1B on this team. What matters is being a cohesive unit this year is what's going to take them the furthest.
Really good stuff. Espo, PHNX Sports GM, contributor for PHNX Suns, as well as, from what I saw the other day, the center for PHNX Suns. Listen, me and Brendan, we gotta rally up 3 guys. But at some point, we might just have to go 5-on-5. I get to guard you. I figured we could just do that. Go phnx.com if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, correct.
Look at that. See,
I'm the emotional center, though, not the basketball center. I'm the emotional center of the show, the gravity of the show, if you will.
I'm trying to get Brendan to come out and come hoop with me, but he won't do it, probably because I'm all the way on the west side and he doesn't want to take that trek over from the utopia that is the east side. Thank you so much for joining me. That is Espo from PHNX Sports, the GM, the PHNX Suns. Go phnx.com. Thanks so much for making Locked On Suns your first listen. You can find us on all platforms, wherever you get your podcast. We will be back after the Suns play another preseason game against the Lakers. Can't wait for it. We will see you guys then. And until then, it's been Locked On Suns. That's Espo. I'm Ben. We will talk soon.